For our healthcare executives out there that are listeners, it would be so great to meet you in person. And that opportunity is coming up in June at our 13th annual Healthcare Executive Forum. It is being held in Madison, Wisconsin. It is the afternoon of June 18th and the morning of June 19th. This year, the topic is how to make high reliability, psychological safety, and just culture simple. And not just make it simple, make it happen. Because what we're known for at Capstone Leadership Solutions is taking big, complex ideas and helping them become practical, doable, and actionable ideas that get positive impact. You can sign up using the link below in the show notes, or you can email us at info@capstoneleadership.net. It would be great to see you there. And it is a glorious sight to watch what happens in organizations where leaders and teams of employees and improvement teams execute on well-defined plans with confidence and alignment. And truly, what they're doing is ensuring a stronger future for their organization. Welcome to Culture Change RX, the podcast for healthcare professionals that are committed to creating a thriving workplace culture, improving the experiences of employees and patients, and ultimately unlocking their organization's next level of potential. I'm Sue Tetzloff, your host and co-founder of Capstone Leadership Solutions. Join me and my insightful guests each week as we share actionable insights for navigating the crucial people side of the business of healthcare. Subscribe now for a weekly dose of Culture Change RX. Now let's dive into this week's conversation where culture change takes center stage. Hello, everyone. This is Sue Tetzloff here. Welcome back to another episode of Culture Change RX. If you're new to the podcast, I'm glad you found us. If you're listening in again, thank you for your continued interest in the topic of culture change. Today is one of those solo episodes, a little bit shorter, no guest in the studio, just me here all alone today. And the culture focus that I would like to explore today with you is related to execution, strategy execution. In our weekly email newsletter, I recently sent out an email related to strategy execution, and it included a strategy and planning matrix. And this specific email newsletter was very well received by our newsletter subscribers. So I thought the podcast might be a great place to also bring this information forward. I'm going to be describing a 4-quadrant matrix, and I'll actually link it in the show notes so you can get a copy of this image. I'll explain it to you and you'll be able to follow along, but it'll be nice to have a copy of this image, I'm sure, for your own continued thought around this topic. So to start with, what does strategy execution have to do with culture? You might be thinking that, but one of the things I've come to know after 30 plus years in the industry of healthcare leadership and working with dozens of healthcare organizations now to support their efforts to grow and improve is that greatness and growth require execution. Execution is indeed a superpower. And if you go back to our definition that culture is this is how we do things around here, it makes sense that how we execute on our plans, on our goals, on our improvement aims, on our growth imperatives, that how we execute and the systems that we use and the actions that we take, this is how we do things around here, that indeed our execution approach is culture related. How we do or how we don't execute has a culture element to it and implication. So in essence, do you have a culture of execution? Do we do what we say we're going to do? Again, culture is this is how we do things around here. So if we plan to do something, do we actually follow through and do it? It's definitely an element of trust, right? And trust is a cultural element as well. Sometimes culture gets a bad rap with some executives and boards as culture being soft stuff in a business. Yet if executives and trustees could grasp the reality that execution systems, while maybe cultural, are definitely strategically important business elements. So I would love to compel executives and trustees out there to consider that investing in culture is a smart business decision. So I mentioned already this concept of a strategy execution matrix, again, that I'm going to put a link to in the show notes. But think about it in your mind right now, or if you got a piece of paper, you could even draw it, that on the y-axis, that vertical axis, that arrow going up in this matrix is the planning axis. Low planning at the bottom, high planning at the top. So how effective are we at strategic planning? Are we even doing it? And how well we are doing it? So that is on the y-axis. And the higher up we go, the stronger we are in our ability to plan. And on that horizontal or x-axis on this matrix is strategy execution. So on the far left would be low strategy execution, and on the far right would be higher effectiveness at strategy execution. So we've got this matrix of planning and execution. And then we can consider 4 different quadrants that make up this matrix. So if we think of the 2 quadrants on the far left, one of those at the very top would be high planning, low execution. And you can imagine that if an organization spends a lot of time planning, puts a lot of time and energy in crafting the very best plans, but spends very little time executing on it. So, in essence, over planning with little action, their organization is going to be stuck in a era of stagnation. So while great plans may exist, execution is falling short. So when I talked about being on a pathway of continuous growth and greatness, planning alone doesn't move you further into the realm of achieving growth and greatness for your organization. And then that bottom left corner of this matrix, this quadrant is about low planning and low execution. We have no plans, and therefore we have no plans to execute. So, in cases like this, and as somebody who goes in and assesses healthcare organizations quite often, usually as a precursor to helping them to plan and execute well, is that we see a lot of organizations here. We see a lot of organizations stuck in this quadrant and stuck there maybe for a very long period of time. And really, what are they stuck in? Is they're stuck in the daily operational grind, right? So this quadrant is really about operational focus versus growth and greatness and improvement focus. So no plan and no plan to execute. So we're just keeping the day-to-day operations humming, and we're consumed by the tasks of that rather than shaping the future through great plans and execution of those plans. So on the far left, like I just mentioned, we have the quadrant of stagnation, high planning, low execution, and operational focus activities. So we have little planning and little execution. And then on the far right, we have 2 more quadrants. On the bottom right is a quadrant where we have really high execution. So we're doing lots of things, taking a lot of action. However, these actions aren't based on a really solid planning process. So these actions are being taken with little strategic direction. I would label this quadrant reckless. In situations like this, it's very much like chasing butterflies or shiny objects. This looks exciting, so we take action on that. That looks appealing, so we take action on that. Yet we're not being good stewards of our time and resources that we're devoting to those activities. And I would suspect and have seen examples of situations where organizations are operating in this quadrant when it comes to planning and execution. And what I find is that They're shifting very, very often what they're working on. So they start this big thing and then something else gets their attention and they move on to that other thing. So nothing's really ever getting completed or getting a return on investment. And often in these cases, we're creating a lot of change fatigue and wasting a lot of resources of time and money without a lot of traction and return on investment long term for the energy and investment made. I remember working with one healthcare organization where we had come in and we had a 2-year commitment to work with them to help them put in systems for growth and execution and improvement. And one of the core systems that we help them put into place is to develop a systematic plan and approach for how leaders lead, how we onboard leaders, how we continually develop and mentor and coach leaders to that model of leadership. And we were about 6 months into this exciting and amazing effort and working with them. The plans were set for this approach. Execution had started for this approach. And then one day the CEO calls me and she goes, I saw this email and I saw this information and I'm getting really excited about this thing related to leadership. And I would love to bring this forward to our leaders. And she was just all excited and worked up about this whole nother direction for how their leaders should lead. And what I realized, this was only one example of similar things that I saw in that organization in our time with them, is that they'd have these great plans and then not too far into the execution of those plans, they were already looking for something else or the next thing versus follow up and follow through on the things that were started that were going to take some time, right? That can't happen overnight. That's why most top strategic priorities take more than a year to complete. And we have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5-year plans for our organization for those top strategic priorities. So if we're executing without plans or we're constantly shifting those plans, I would call that the reckless quadrant in this matrix. Taking action without a solid strategic foundation, risking wasted resources and misaligned efforts. But then there's that glorious quadrant at that top upper right corner of this matrix. That's where we're high in strategic planning and we're high in execution. I love to call this the momentum quadrant. So we've got well-planned execution for long-term success. And it is a glorious sight to watch what happens in organizations where leaders and teams of employees and improvement teams execute on well-defined plans with confidence and alignment. And truly, what they're doing is ensuring a stronger future for their organization. I am going to put this matrix in the show notes so you can get a copy of it. And it would be really an interesting activity for you to do, is to take this matrix to your executive team meeting and ask yourselves as a collective, are we in the quadrant of stagnation or stuck in that operational quadrant, or maybe we're behaving in that reckless quadrant, or ultimately, are we in that momentum quadrant, and how do we make sure we stay there? Excellence truly requires great execution. Growth of our organizations require great execution, and execution is a cultural superpower. Culture is, this is how we do things around here. So how do we plan and how do we execute? And do we do what we say we're going to do? So when we plan it, do we do it? So gather up your executive team, take along this matrix, have a great discussion, and have that discussion include what shifts are necessary in our organization to stay in that momentum quadrant or to move towards that momentum quadrant, and to always have an established disciplined system for both planning and execution. And if your organization is a smaller rural healthcare organization, and what I mean by that is maybe you're a critical access hospital, maybe you're an executive at a healthcare organization like an ambulatory surgery center or a nursing home or freestanding ER, We specialize in working with organizations that have less than 1,000 employees. Most of them are community hospitals located in rural areas, but not all of them. And for 13 plus years, we've been working with dozens of organizations like that to get them well situated into that momentum quadrant. Great planning, great execution systems, year after year after year, executing on well-formed plans, engaging employees, elevating leaders, and improving and growing with confidence. Just heard from a hospital CEO yesterday where their organization has reached the 90th percentile in employee engagement, which was a goal of theirs, a strategic priority of theirs to elevate employee engagement. They've become a top 20 critical access hospital for patient satisfaction, also a strategic priority of theirs and plans that they've been working on and executing on well. And also, they've acquired another critical access hospital to join them as part of now a growing system so they can serve more patients throughout a larger market area. It's been so lovely to watch them move through that continuum of good to great, great to even greater, to strengthen those people, service, and quality pillars through well-planned and well-executed efforts. And now to be able to leverage those strengths for great service to a much larger community. If your organization is interested in learning how that organization did just that, using our capstone framework, formula, and execution systems approach, reach out to us on our website, capstoneleadership.net. There's a contact us page. You can either book a call there or you can email us at info@capstoneleadership.net. Thanks for being here and listening in today. And we'll be back again next week, every Wednesday, with another episode of Culture Change RX. If you found this episode valuable, we encourage you to send it off to a colleague or even share it with your social media networks. Much appreciated. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now. Thanks for tuning in to Culture Change RX. If you found value in today's episode and you are a believer in fostering change in healthcare, join us in making a difference. Follow, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with colleagues and your network. Together, we can make a lasting impact. Until next week, keep inspiring positive change. We know that healthcare executives have their sights on high reliability, just culture, and psychological safety. In true capstone fashion, we're all about helping simplify the complex and helping entire healthcare organizations execute successfully on big, bold initiatives such as these. One such way that we can help is through our upcoming Healthcare Executive Forum. In its 13th year, this forum has been helping healthcare executives learn proven approaches for executing successfully on big, bold initiatives. So whether you're just starting your journey to high reliability or well on your way, this event has something for everyone. Our time-honored commitment is that every attendee leave with an actionable and impactful plan that they can just start when they get back to the office the next day. The event is on June 18th and 19th. In Madison, Wisconsin, and you can go to capstoneleadership.net and under the resources page, look for the details on our upcoming events. Plan now for you and your executive team to attend.